This is the San Remo Cycling Path. 44 kilometers of old railway line turned into one of the most spectacular cycle paths in Italy. And this bucket list coastline ride is packed with stunning views, beautiful beaches, and enough food and drink stops to completely sabotage your training plan. Join me as we ride the whole stretch and let me show you some of my favorite pit stops and detours along the way. Let's be honest, the best cycling holidays aren't necessarily the ones where you ride the fastest. They're the ones where you keep finding reasons to stop. Right then, let's ride! This is the third year I've made a video following the development of the cycling path, or Pista Ciclabile. And this year I'm happy to break some good news. The route has become a lot longer. We're starting bright and early in Andora, which marks the ending point of this year's extension. The path begins near the new railway station before gradually working its way towards the coast. Winding past rugged cliffs in that gorgeous early morning light. It also takes you through the old railway tunnels. Looking at these things, you'd think the trains back then were basically glorified toy trains. The section towards Cervo cuts through some absolutely stunning coastal scenery. The old railway stations were built right in the middle of the towns, so the cycle path heads further inland as it passes through them. But between the towns, the old railway hugs the coastline, giving you some seriously spectacular sea views. As soon as you leave the tunnel, you'll arrive at what many people consider one of the finest beaches in the area. And if you ask me, Cervo might be the most beautiful village in the province of Imperia. Perched dramatically on the steep cliffs, Cervo almost looks like it's trying not to fall into the sea. And if you want even more beach life and ocean views, you can always swap the cycle path for the seafront road through the towns. So let's leave the cycle path for a moment to explore the seafront of Diano Marina. Dig these old palaces and tiny colorful houses framing a promenade lined by wide sandy beaches. At the end of the promenade, we rejoin the cycle path and continue towards Imperia. This part of the newly opened section is an absolute joy. The coastline is spectacular, and in places it honestly feels like you're floating above the water. You'll also spot several stairways leading down to tiny beaches where you can sneak in for a swim. Absolutely magical. As you can see, it's pretty quiet this morning. That's partly because we're in the middle of a heat wave, and partly because I started ridiculously early. At this hour, the beaches belong almost exclusively to Italian grannies. They're basically running the beaches until about 9 o'clock. As we arrive in Imperia, we run into a closed tunnel. Interestingly, this one was open last year, so I'm guessing it's just undergoing a bit of routine maintenance. Hopefully, it'll be back in action again very soon. No worries though. Instead, we roll along the harbor in Onelia, where you'll find a nice scenery and plenty of good restaurants. One place well worth checking out is Matama da Arturo. They do grill, seafood, and I promise you'll love everything on the menu. From Onelia, it's only a short ride to Porto Maurizio. As we pass through this tunnel, I have to point out one of my absolute favorite restaurants in the whole area, Il Porto. In my humble opinion, they serve the best pizza anywhere around here, basta. Before carrying on, let's make a quick detour to Porgoprino, where they have created almost 500 meters of brand new beach. Last year, this was little more than a collection of tired old fishing boats. Now it's becoming a really lovely place to spend the afternoon. Obviously, I had to carry out a completely unnecessary sand inspection. The verdict? It's fairly coarse, not exactly Caribbean perfection, but honestly, who cares? Last year, this place was quite a mess. We're on Porgoprino. Nice atmosphere, easy parking if you arrive early, and definitely worth a stop. Keep an eye out there. Just after this little bridge, there's a public water fountain where you can refill your bottles completely free of charge. It's on your left just before the tunnel. Speaking of tunnels, some of them now have colored lights and slightly questionable disco music, but they all provide something even more useful. A lovely blast of cold air on those roasting hot summer days. From here, the route winds through beautiful scenery with cliffs and umbrella pines as we make our way towards San Lorenzo al Mare. I actually bumped into the former mayor here, who's running the beachfront restaurant Uno Stramu. And he also happened to be one of the people involving in creating the Pista Ciclabile itself. Let's hear what he has to say.
We built the Pista Ciclabile about 3 years ago because was, sorry for my English, a kilometre land that the people forget. So when I was the man of this village, San Lorenzo al Mare, we need to build Pista Ciclabile for arrive in Imperia. But Pista Ciclabile, the best is change the tourists because before we work only in the summer. Now is change because the people come also in autumn and in the spring because the bike you use in the spring and in autumn. In the summer it's too much hot maybe, no? So the people come and they know this wonderful land. In San Lorenzo you can find many restaurants, many beach, many little shop, typical shop. I look to make typical foods from this land. Typical, there is many, but typical. But you can eat especially from Ligure, like spaghetti e vongole, anchovies fry. We have swordfish that is fish in Imperia, is the best fish that we have here. The secret is that we are always open. The beach we close in the end of October, between the start of November, because friends that come here and they can find open the beach, toilet, the shower, and all service that you can need.
San Lorenzo, still our local favorite beach. If you're traveling with children, there's also the mini golf cafe just beyond this village. Perfect destination for the little ones. We're now heading towards Santo Stefano al Mare. Between the towns, the path opens up nicely. There's less traffic, fewer people to dodge. Have a look at the cycle path and compare it to the main road. The traffic over there is pretty tight, and personally, I'd only recommend it if you're comfortable mixing it with Italian drivers. When you reach the blue roundabout just outside Santo Stefano, you've got a choice to make. Stay right and continue on the Pista Ciclabile, or leave the path and follow the beachfront instead. Oh, and right here you'll also find one of the most spectacular cemeteries I've ever seen. If I absolutely had to pick my final resting place, I wouldn't mind waking up to that view every morning. We carry on along the cycle path for a little while longer, just to show you another bike rental shop and a couple of nice cafes. But today I also want to show you more of the coastline itself, so let's return to that blue roundabout. If you choose the seafront road into Santo Stefano, you're rewarded with even better sea views. Of course, you'll need to slow down a bit. This is definitely more sightseeing mode than race mode. Choose whichever suits your mood. Santo Stefano is one of those places that's almost impossible not to like. A lovely little seaside town where, like most places along this coast, you can choose between the free beach or paying for one of the private beach clubs. While we're here, I'll quickly show you what you missed up on the cycle path. Not exactly a life-changing experience, but now you've seen both. From Santo Stefano, we continue towards Riva Ligure, hugging the coastline the entire way. Riva Ligure is another charming little seaside town that's well worth stopping in. If you're staying nearby, I'd recommend booking a table at Il Vascello. On a warm summer evening, you're practically eating dinner with your feet in the mud. And if you've spent the day at Spiaggia La Torre with its panoramic sea views, you've probably earned yourself a decent pizza by then. Leaving Riva Ligure, we eventually reach another interruption of the cycle path. This closure has been here for quite a while now. The bridge crossing the river into Arma di Taggia has been out of action for the last couple of years, which means you'll have to use the main road for this section. To be honest, this is probably the only stretch of today's ride that I wouldn't recommend for families with children. Still, you get to ride through this magnificent umbrella pine gateway entering the next town. And just over there, that's the bridge causing all the trouble. Once you spot the huge rusty olive sculptures in the roundabout, you'll know you have arrived in Arma di Taggia, the olive capital of Liguria. Naturally, we're leaving the main road behind again and get to choose between the bike path or heading towards the sea. The beach here is excellent, and once again you can choose between beach clubs or simply laying your towel down on the free beach. Your wallet, your decision. As the promenade ends, we discover this lovely little walkway leading out onto more beaches and rocky headland. Just around the corner sits a rather unusual little church. It's actually built inside a cave beneath the main church above. Quite a special place. Confess your cyclist sins, drop a few coins through the grill, light a candle, and leave as a slightly more blessed rider. Rocky Bay is wonderfully scruffy in all the right ways. It's also where we quietly roll into Bussana. The new Bussana village was rebuilt after the original Bussana Vecchia was devastated by an earthquake more than a century ago. The old village still sits up on the hillside, and honestly, it's one of the more fascinating places anywhere along this route. Artists moved in during the 60s, and today it's a maze of crooked streets, tiny galleries and alternative vibes. If you've got an extra hour, go, it's well worth the climb. The new Bussana beach has its own raw charm though. But we've still got some riding to do. So it's back to the Pista Ciclabile, heading towards San Remo. One little pro tip: turn your lights on as you ride through these tunnels. At least that's what the more cultivated riders do. And make sure to remove your sunglasses when entering the tunnels. Otherwise, there's a fair chance you'll end up crashing into someone who's even more confused than yourself. As I've already mentioned, there are cafes, bars and restaurants all the way along this route. So whenever your energy level starts dropping, there's usually an espresso, an ice cream, a slice of greasy focaccia, or something equally tempting waiting just around the next corner. So are you racing or exploring? The real beauty of this route is mixing it up with a little bit of exploration. Find the balance that suits you, then enjoy the day. Oh, and keep an eye out for some of these things people choose to ride around here. Everything from e-bikes to these ridiculous four-wheeled pedal cars, which strangely enough might actually be great fun. For your in-laws at least. As the buildings become taller and the cycling path gets busier, it's pretty obvious we're approaching the biggest town along the route, San Remo. Naturally, we celebrate by doing a completely unnecessary lap around this signature roundabout, just to soak up a little extra city atmosphere. Let's be honest, this is also the perfect place for one or two wonderfully pretentious cycling selfies before carrying on. Heading through town, we pass the old railway station. There's often a market here, especially on Saturdays. And you'll find similar markets popping up in several of the towns along the coast throughout the week. If you're looking to hire a bike, San Remo is the major rental center on the route. You'll also find good rental shops in San Lorenzo al Mare, Porto Maurizio, Santo Stefano, and of course Ospedaletti. And if you're a cycling fan, you already know San Remo. On the third Saturday in March, San Remo becomes the finishing line of one of cycling's greatest races, Milano-San Remo. Outside the race week though, San Remo is simply a brilliant place to spend the day. Plenty of cafes, great lunch spots, lovely beaches, shopping, and enough glamorous beachfront hotels to make you briefly consider extending your holiday. We all know the main road is usually faster, but riding completely separated from traffic, that never gets old. Oh, and to your right, you'll find one more public fountain serving fresh mountain water. The final tunnel before Ospedaletti is long, very long, and surprisingly cold, which after a hot summer ride actually feels fantastic. Naturally, I couldn't resist a little sprint to the other side. Emerging into the sunlight, you're greeted by yet another spectacular stretch of coastline as we roll into Ospedaletti. The beach here is quite different from the others. Instead of soft sand, you'll find beautifully smooth pebbles polished by the sea over countless years. It actually reminds me a lot of the beaches in Nice. Bike rental prices, I reckon, is quite reasonable, with plenty of different bikes to choose from depending on how ambitious you're feeling. Ospedaletti itself is a lovely little town, quiet, relaxed, and home to a popular Sunday market if you happen to be here at the weekend. And then, almost without noticing, you have reached the end. 44 kilometers of sunshine, sea air, good food, beautiful views, and one of the most enjoyable cycling routes I've ever ridden. Whether you're a serious cyclist, someone who simply enjoys riding now and then, or you're traveling with the whole family, if you're planning a trip to Ligure, put the Pista Ciclabile on your list. And if you'd like to discover a few more fantastic rides around this part of Italy, there's more waiting for you here on the channel. Thanks for joining me. See you out there.